You hire lots of lawyers and a compliance team. And then you hope that your compliance team also is just a little bit interested in your business, being a business, not asking for much. So we have an army of lawyers. We have multiple law firms who we work with, and they are experts in their own domains. Joking, no joking, but I don't sneeze without asking the compliance officer.
Welcome to The Feedback Loop, a Sino Global Capital podcast where we keep you in the loop about the most pressing issues in Web3 today. I'm your host, Mona Hamdy, a Harvard teaching fellow with 20 years of experience in nonprofit and sustainable development. I started using emerging technologies 15 years ago, working with remote peoples to create new economies based on the reversal of climate change. And today, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Sino, where I hope to bring beneficial technologies to the most forgotten corners of this planet. We are so thrilled to have Irina Berkon. She's the Chief Financial Officer and board member of Metallicus. In addition to holding it down at Metallicus, Irina is also the co-founder and board director of FBBT Holdings and is the managing director of Golden Seeds, which is an angel investment fund that focuses on women founders. And you are indeed a mentor to not just many women, but many CFOs, many people trying to do something that hasn't been done before with FBBT and with Metallicus. Tell me about Golden Seeds.
So I was introduced to Golden Seeds by a woman who was also a member. I just wanted to learn more about the investing process, the due diligence process and how do the investors look at what they're investing in. And I became a member and invested in a couple of companies. And what I realized and kind of the big, I don't want to say promotion of Golden Seeds, but maybe an edge is that diversity matters. And, it's not this kind of, diversity as a check mark. No, diversity matters. If you have, a few different genders on your founding team or your board, if you have people from different backgrounds, people from different countries, all across the board, all of those diversities, age diversity, all of that matters. And I saw some of the statistics about how little money women get from VCs and from investors. And, there are different reasons for that. So I joined Golden Seeds to kind of, let's just say, diversify my portfolio and to look at how other people think, right? Because if right now I'm going to go, if I say, I want to invest in something, chances are it's going to be not a woman-run team, or maybe women would be a minority in it. So I wanted to see how diversity plays in these startups and the companies. And I learned a lot, going through a few cycles with Golden Seeds of doing due diligence and looking at the companies that come through and how women look at them and how women present. I think that's where I really learned that diversity is very important. And you can define diversity anyway. It doesn't have to be gender diversity, but it can be just people coming from different backgrounds and different, points of view. So that's why I'm with Golden Seeds. And I think that's why Golden Seeds is successful. And we are, I'm not as active anymore, really helping women succeed, because then those women will promote diversity on the next level.
I'm so excited, mostly because the name, for many reasons, because it's you, and because Metallicus just sounds badass. Tell me what Metallicus is.
So Metallicus is a cryptocurrency and a blockchain company. It was founded by Marshall Hayner and Glenn Marion in 2017. And with a vision of providing a way for people to buy and sell and send around crypto easily to each other and, with their fiat accounts. And, back then it was not a very clear path to how to do it. So the team here has gone through a compliance review and a technical build out, and they did build this amazing app called MetalPay. And it is, still our flagship product. And with MetalPay, you can open a bank account with your own routing number, account number at a FDIC insured bank. You can deposit fiat into that bank account via wire, ACH, credit or debit card. And then you could buy cryptocurrencies with that, fiat money. And it is currently live in most of the United States and also in Europe. And I got brought in to Metallicus. It was kind of a funny story, but they were going through a financial statement audit, and the auditor called me up because I knew him and said, hey, I have this company I'm auditing, and they could really use some help, like internally. They could really use a financial person inside. And I said, yeah, I'm not really sure. Like I do that anymore because I used to be in public accounting, did audits for almost 10 years. He's like, well, just like do me a favor, go see it, go see what it is. So I got to Metallicus and I asked Marshall, I'm like, why do you need this audit? And he said, oh, I want to be a money service business. I want to get money transmitter licenses. And I was like, wow, really? For a crypto company? Like, sounds crazy. So this was beginning of 2020. So I joined, I'm sitting in the office, finishing the audit. And then, Marshall and I kind of start talking and, sharing his experience. And he's been, kind of the OG in the crypto industry. And, my whole thing was, it needs to be user friendly and very compliant. So we, really bonded over that. And at that time, he said, look, we also need our own blockchain. We need a blockchain that can help facilitate payments faster and make it user friendly and not have a feature where users have to pay money to transact on the blockchain. At that time, the Proton blockchain was born. And we are now one of the core developers on this blockchain. It's a public blockchain, and it has a couple of really interesting features. And one of them is human readable names. So instead of sending a transaction to like a really long string of numbers and letters, you can send it to Mona or Irina. There's no gas fees to send these transactions, and they happen very quickly. So I said, wow, this is great. This sounds like a great combination with MetalPay. And, now we're building even more products on this Proton blockchain and combining them with our MetalPay product, which is the simple way to buy and sell crypto. And then the blockchain product, which is a little bit more technical and has more bells and whistles for, crypto users.
Aside from the fact that Metallicus does literally sound badass, I have a million questions to ask you because obviously digital assets and banking separately and together have been, at the forefront of all of the world's news and especially the United States' news for the past month. But you guys really saw this coming. And you've been speaking about exactly what's happening now for months. How did you find, or how are you reconciling that, right? Like you're pretty much at the vanguard of an industry that looks like it's in the crosshairs of every American regulator and policymaker.
We're very American, and I don't mean to sound cheesy, but it is true. This is where Marshall and I live. This is where our company is. I love that this is also the country of Coinbase and Kraken and others who are really in the forefront of regulation and following all the rules. Maybe it would be easier to leave and go launch something somewhere else where the environment is less strict, let's say. I don't know if that's a good thing necessarily, but we are here and we are going to be, hopefully not the last one standing, but the ones standing with a few who will remain here. So it is very hard to be licensed the way we are. Every day we're doing something to maintain our licenses, to get new licenses, to evaluate where they're needed, and sometimes we even advise policymakers. When it comes to banking, this is kind of a little bit of a separate story, and maybe this kind of goes into why FBBT Holdings was started. Crypto was kind of a bad word, then it became okay, and now it's again a bad word. So in 2020, it was already COVID. It was about like September of 2020. We get a call from Bank of America saying, we're going to do a review of we just had an operating account with them, like payroll, bills, stuff like that. And they said, we're going to review your company, like for compliance. So, oh, great, send the list, we'll answer. Yeah. And we're like, okay, and we've had that account, like Marshall opened that account a while before. And so they were like, oh, I think they gave us like a PPP loan first. And then they were like, oh, we're going to review you. Okay, fine. And then they call a week later and said, actually, we're not going to review you. We're just going to close your account. We don't really care about the answer, and that's that. So I was like, oh my gosh, we have 20 employees. How are we going to pay them payroll? So thankfully, another bank stepped up and opened up us an account, and we had a great relationship with another bank. And then Marshall and I were said like, well, we weren't doing anything wrong. Like we had our licenses. It's one thing to ask, like they can ask us, oh, show us this, show us whatever. So we said, well, maybe we should like think about opening our own bank where we actually understand companies' businesses and what they go through and what kind of license they need and why they need bank accounts. So, we went down a few different paths, and some of them led us to kind of realizing that some banks or, some bank charters are a little bit overcomplicating things when it comes to crypto, because what crypto is not quite what banks need, or there's a lot of demand for it at the banks. So, companies, and we see this more, more so now, they just need a safe bank account, right? Like they just want their bank not to close on them or to close them. That's what we decided to do. So Marshall and I started FBBT Holdings, and we decided to acquire a bank and run it completely separately from anything, Metallicus is doing, but with our expertise in what it takes to, do proper due diligence on a customer of a bank. And which customers would you take in on the bank and which ones you wouldn't, and then you wouldn't have to blame crypto for everything that goes wrong in your bank. Girl, we hired some real bankers. Yeah. We're not going to like run this bank ourselves. We're not in denial. We have people from BNY Mellon and Northern Trust, and we have an advisory board. So, for us, it was like an idea, and then we said, okay, let's go execute it. So that's where we are with our bank right now.
That's, I have to say, again, everybody who's in that same, there's a whole nexus of people. I am an American. I bank. I happen to, constantly be living in that world between fiat and crypto and want to be compliant. I'll fill any form. But will you dump me? Same with auditing. I can't wait to get to the auditing portion of this whole entire thing as a CFO, because like, I think crypto auditors are like the perennial hot guy at the bar. Like I'm just the most thirsty for any auditor, for anything audited, because you want to be compliant. You just want to run your business, right? So how are you finding it between the bank and between the services of Metallicus, bridging, just surfing those waters in the United States? What's the on the ground reality that you guys are seeing today?
Well, people really need it and they want it. There is like, you can say, oh, crypto's bad and crypto's for fraudsters and crypto's for scammers. That's not true. There is a lot of people who want to build on the blockchain. They want this blockchain to be compliant. One thing about the Proton blockchain, that any product we build on it, for people to use it, they have to pass KYC, know your client. And there is a certain level of it in different countries. So, if you come on there and you say, I want to trade on your exchange that's built on the Proton chain, or if you want to do other products, if you want to send money to each other, wouldn't you want to know that everybody who's doing that a KYC'd and non-OFAC, non-sanctioned individual? People want that. If you want to have dark web, blockchain stuff, you can find that, but that's not what people are coming to us with. And I think that's what people want from banking as well. And that's what, maybe Marshall and mine and a couple other people on our team bring to the table, that, it doesn't need to be super exotic. It doesn't need to be very complicated. It needs to be safe and it needs to be compliant.
I've been in this space for a while. And prior to that, it was all sustainable development, nonprofit management. And so the idea of the unbanked to me was always a very different kind of person. It was a person I was writing grants for. It was a person who was a refugee. So KYC was, a matter of documentation, or a matter of just so happened to be born in a country that has global sanctions on them. And this was the first time in my life, I think, where I saw debanking of a different kind of customer, a customer who was, American and engaging in a protocol, a customer who maybe wasn't even in crypto, as we saw with some of the United States sort of bank bailouts, but just happened to be a startup or a founder who was, based in Silicon Valley. So what trends are you seeing in terms of like in the digital asset banking network industry? Where are we going in the next few years? And for companies who would want to bank with you, or for companies that would be clients for you, how do we best prepare for the changes that you kind of see coming?
I think that people, there've been a few bad actors, and we all know who they are in the last couple of years. And I think that there are more good actors than bad actors. I think that the bad actors weren't there because of crypto. They were there because they were committing fraud. And that's, I try to always say, just you can be a shoe store and commit the same fraud. You can be a hair salon. I was talking to my hair lady about this. You can be any business and commit fraud. These couple big ones that committed fraud with crypto, it just happened to be crypto. There were others with other financial instruments or other industries before. So I think the trend is going towards not committing fraud in crypto or via crypto. Not using that as a benchmark, or not a benchmark, but like as a step, a ladder to fraud, because eventually that's not, that's not going to work. When there is fraud being committed, but not via crypto, maybe in the industry, but there's other industries where fraud is being committed. So everybody who we talk to who wants to be a company, and there's like now words, a company with nexus to crypto or crypto adjacent company. Like this is what I hear about us, because we're not a crypto company. We don't, we provide technology for crypto transactions, but we're crypto adjacent or crypto nexus to crypto. We do want to be on the right side of regulation. And I think that's the trend that's coming in. And we know we're not going to get a bank account if we're not. We had a call the other day with a bank and they said, what is your relationship with Binance? And I said, why do you ask? And they said, well, it would depend whether we go do business with you or not. So that's a bank, right? So I know if I want a bank account, I need to answer that question. Right. What are they going to do with that answer? I don't know, right? But it's the same, are you a OFAC sanctioned individual? Right. So we want these services. And I think customers of FBBT Holdings, the bank we're acquiring, via the FBBT Holdings, they're going to be those customers. They want a bank account and they're ready to comply with the regulation to get one.
Right. No, for sure. And I think that there's a whole world, again, from that same kind of background, right? So like looking at OFAC and KYC, for every one person on a list, there are hundreds of thousands and tens of millions of people who are just trying to transact in the normal course of business. And so, hearing that is really quite daunting because there are certain allegations about crypto institutions being targeted by financial regulators and by debanking. And so I'm curious about this whole class of people. When we talk about the unbanked, we're actually changing that definition, right? To a different kind of demographic. And I find that
I'm glad you say that. I've been saying this for a while. So we went to the OCC with our first original charter and they said, why do you want this bank? And I said something, along the lines of, we want to bank the unbanked. And they were like, huh? What's that mean? I said, the cryptocurrency and the blockchain companies or financial services companies, not even crypto, let's not even go to the exotic, financial services company. Like some of them, because if you need a license to operate your company, the bank should understand, how to get this license. Like, did you get the right license? Are you operating under this license properly? And, our licenses have a lot to do with crypto, but also not to do with crypto. We're getting money transmitter licenses from states. They've been around forever. So we go to a bank, they say, how are you legal? Okay, here's how it is. And they said, do you do this and this and this service? We say no, because the licenses don't allow us, to do that. So just banking the companies that are doing all the right things.
How are you finding staying compliant? How focused? I know that, this is 100% a focus of everyone, not just because we're American, because we're transacting in the United States, but because, you do that with any sort of offshore feeders. We do that with any portfolio company. Anybody who wants to be a good player in the business would do that. But when the idea of going in and registering is nebulous and getting a license, and that seems to be unclear on the crypto side, as a CFO, give me some CFO advice here for staying compliant in like rough, uncharted, completely dark, and maybe torpedo-laden waters.
You hire lots of lawyers. I seriously, and a compliance team. And then you hope that your compliance team also is just a little bit interested in your business being a business, not asking for much, but please just let me do something. So I'm lucky to have both. So we have an army of lawyers. We have multiple law firms who we work with, and they are experts in their own domains. We have a really good compliance team. And joking, but I don't sneeze without asking the compliance officer. I talk to him all day, every day. We have a CEO who used to work at Northern Trust, who's also very in tune with like what we can and cannot do. We just can't take the risk to not do that. And, we kind of at first thought, oh, maybe we're a little bit behind some other players, but now those players are not in business. So maybe we're not, and sometimes you have to take a step back or a few steps back to, leap forward. We have reached out to some states ourselves and said, please review our compliance with your state regulation. It's a scary process. And especially since some federal regulators use that opportunity to not to advise you, but to really punish you. Luckily, the states we've reached out to have not. They've been very amicable with working with us and figuring out how to properly comply with their rules. Going forward, some of them are writing new rules. Some of them are asking us about some of the things that they are working on. You have to protect yourself. You have to surround yourself with the right people, the right lawyers, and the right experts, and also continue to make the business decisions as well.
Tell me about FBBT Holdings. What inspired you to start this, and where do we find it today?
Yeah, as I mentioned, Marshall and I said, there's a lot of unbanked companies. Let's help them. And we were talking to this one reporter, and she's like, "Oh, like what's in it for you?" And I was like, "Well, in it for me is to make money. Like, I really think we're going to have a really good business case here." And we spoke to her actually a few days before SVB, closed down. And we were like, well, and she said something like, "Oh, you're going to compete with SVB." And Marshall said, "Well, we're not really sure SVB is going to be around for that long." And we had no idea. 2 days later, it closed.
Yeah, I told you. I knew you made a few statements like that. I'm going to make a list at the end of this, but exactly.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of sees the future a little bit more than me, Marshall.
Like,
he sees the future.
Says that about SVB, in the past 6 months, but I hear this was early. So
yeah. So I mean, my thing always is like, okay, yes, there are competitors in the space. That's a good thing. That means I didn't make something up that nobody wants. Like if I came out with some crazy, crypto custody with blockchain, all this stuff, nobody's doing that because nobody wants it, and maybe we'll be the first ones to offer a little bit of something blockchain in the bank, but probably we're not going to be the first ones at our bank. Citibank, Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, I'm sure they all have a blockchain, function, and they're going to come out with something blockchain related to their banks. And then we will be ready, maybe it'll be our blockchain at that time that, we'll use. But we said, hey, let's open this bank. So we are in the process of acquiring a bank in Illinois. And yeah, it's a small bank. Like it's not a secret. We're not buying, Chase.
State Bank of Nauvoo.
Yeah, State Bank of Nauvoo. We really jived, our proposed bank president, Lee, he really jived with the owners of this bank. And I mean, he has like a history in every town in the US, and he happened to have a history with this town as well. He grew up.
Mormon? I'm obsessed with
not.
Yes, I want to know everything about this nexus. I was like, Metallicus and Nauvoo is the most, I think only crypto or only you guys could do this. So lay it on me, Irina.
He said, he's like, oh, this is where the Mormon religion started. And I said, oh, yeah, great. Yeah. Like, let's go, you'll have to go visit. I said, of course we'll go. So he went there, he met with the team. It's a really great team. The bank has been in the family for a very long time, and they're running it really, really well. It's obviously a small town. There's been a lot of like, oh, they're buying a bank without a website. I'm like, yeah, like why would I buy a bank with a website? We can make their website. We can bring a lot of technology to them. We can bring a compliance team to them. We can bring funds to them. Our advisory board consists of the Fed and the OCC and people from other regulatory bodies. We have, a person from a big bank who's, going to be part of our audit committee. we have like a cybersecurity expert. Like, yeah, this bank didn't have any of this. And that's why we're partnering with them, because they want to continue serving their community and expand beyond that. We have a plan, and that plan is going to be very simple banking, and it's going to be very, let's say, safe. I don't know if the word safe is right in banking, but we're not going to make a lot of risky investments. We're going to be very, we have a business plan where there's going to be a lot of plain vanilla operations with this bank, but it's going to open up to more and more markets. And that's what people want. No one's coming to the bank saying, give me something super exotic so I can lose my money and you guys shut down in a month. Yeah, I think we're going to make lots of money doing that.
FBBT's got a pretty conservative dynamic growth strategy in terms of, you've said that a few times where we're pretty vanilla. We're not looking for anything exotic here. It sounds like you're a little bit more Nauvoo, a little bit more Nauvoo than you think.
Yeah. I mean, it's all going to come, and we have the experts that can help Nauvoo with, State Bank of Nauvoo and the town maybe with upgrading some of their current banking. And we have the experts who can help them grow their, deposits and their lending because of our, we've been through the war and back of doing compliance checks of ourselves and our clients and everybody in between. And when it's ready, when people want something crypto done, we'll be there. It's just not something that's even needed right now.
Meeting you have been one of the most forthright, straight shooting, aggressive, dynamic women that I've met in the space. I'm impressed with just how, face on you seem to tackle everything from questions to deal flow to really speaking, being really proactive about getting out there. Walk me through that, Irina. I wanted, I was hoping that people would get to know not just Metallicus and FBBT more, but you. What are your challenges? What are you facing every day that you're grappling with or growing with right now?
Oh man, thank you. Thank you for saying that. It doesn't feel this way always. I don't know. I'm sure other maybe women can relate that you don't always feel like you're coming out ahead. And I've been very lucky to have, let's say, bosses or managers or people I work with who have been very supportive and never had problems with, gender or any other diversity. Our company, Metallicus, is very diverse, and, Marshall and I are very supportive of each other and the team. So, I never have to worry kind of here at Metallicus about where we are all kind of like where the company's head is at. Everybody is in the same boat of doing the right thing and moving it forward and giving their best. So that's what kind of makes me come to work every day, that everybody has the same goal of excellence. And it's from, comes from Marshall and the board and me and the C-level executives and all the way to, VPs, managers, staff. Everybody is in it to do their best at their job. And, I guess somehow we created this culture. I guess I can say we now because I've been here long enough and I, helped with it. We've created this culture of excellence at the company. Like what worries me is something that I can't control, which in the US regulatory space, there's a lot nowadays. We do wake up sometimes and something is happening. Even the banks, like when SVB closed and then Signature that same weekend, right? There was, so we didn't have anything at SVB, but we did have an account at Signature and we didn't have a lot of money in it and we didn't lose it. But, that Monday we had to figure out what we're doing. And it was one of those like very surreal moments that you're like in the, no, you're not in a third world country, right? Like I've been through that in a different country. Maybe you've been through it too, where you expect that to happen. It's not unexpected that someone's bank, is closing or you can't get your money out or someone stole it or something. This is not the country where you would expect it. And, I've had my training there. So I come to work and like we start doing all these things and the team was very supportive. So, something like that could happen. First Republic, we didn't have exposure, but we're all watching it very closely. And it's just the external factors, and anything that like a regulator or a partner could hear and not translate properly to themselves, and that would reflect on us. And, we are, as strong as our weakest link, right? So we have a lot of partners we rely on. And if they fail, or if they question something that they shouldn't, or they don't understand, then it could reflect on us. So these are my challenges every day, but they're all external. I wish they were, I wish everybody was working like we are.
That's, just as dynamic as I know you to be. If you had to explain Metallicus to your grandmother, what would you say?
I don't know if my grandmother had a bank account. I'm just thinking that was back in the day. She, we had the little paper books that she would keep the money in. Well, I would say that it is something for your money that is easy to use and it's safe.
We spend a lot of time doing regulatory stuff, doing policy and advisory, pretty much with any crypto looking or crypto curious regulator around the world. And we found that generally we don't want to impress them with how smart we are, right? We want to educate them on use cases, on how this makes people's lives easier. And so I usually ask every founder and every guest that question. How do I explain this to my mom? How do you explain that to your grandmother? And you are the first person to actually recall a time when people didn't, by and large, even have bank accounts, right? And most people don't. And just thinking, as soon as you said that, I've never heard that on this show before. And I think of my own grandmother who would at the beginning of the month would sort of get the envelopes out and parcel out the funds for different things. She was her own savings and loans. So that's most of the world, Irina. And I think that that's a great way. That's a great way to wrap this up and to share you and Metallicus with our viewers. So I'm really grateful that I got this chance to spend with you some time and to, share this story.
Thank you. Thank you, Mona. Thank you so much for giving me this outlet.
Our time is up for now, but the conversation is still going. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Sino Global Cap, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and leave us your feedback so we can loop it into upcoming episodes.